Hey, welcome back to another episode of A to Z, you guys, starring me, Zero Rimson as your resident Yang, and Aaron Chase as your resident Yin. I should do it in the order of Yin Yang, but it doesn't matter. Long and short of it is, I'm positive. Off to a great start. I got backed out, but I'm back, baby. What I'm saying is, I'm positive, airy fairy. Aaron's realist and pessimist, but together we make a pretty interesting conversation. And today, Aaron says he has two things that somehow equal positivity. So he's going to start talking, and I'm going to eat these chicken patties because I'm hungry right now. Go ahead, Aaron.
So I had a moment with my mom that I think I handled very well, and I'm proud of myself for that moment.
That's good. It's always good to have a couple of positives.
Yes, I went to the house to look for a waffle iron because I wanted waffles because they are cheap and easy to make and they fill you up. And so I go in, I'm looking for the waffle iron, and my mom does this. Aaron, you look disgusting. You look ugly. What is wrong with you? What's wrong with your hair? Ugh. When are you gonna do something about your hair and your clothes look dingy? They look so dingy. You look dingy. When are you gonna do anything about that? I said, no. And I
Off to a great start.
I just said no, and I just left. And
Okay.
I obviously was annoyed about it. Like, it's a very needless and rude thing to say to somebody. Especially during COVID, when I'm supposed to be social distancing. I can't do anything with my hair right now because I'm trying to save up money, and so I'm trying to do all that. And who the fuck cares how I'm dressed right now? It doesn't matter. It doesn't. When I'm delivering McDonald's for Postmates, I don't think anyone gives a fuck about how my shirt looks. But so I was mad about it for a little bit. I vented it to a friend, and then I was like, all right, well, it's done now. And I felt fine after, like, you remember way back when I was talking about an issue at McDonald's? And there was it was like when something would upset me, it would upset, I couldn't fucking let it go. It would just like latch on. I think over enough time, things upset me. Like, I'm still a person, but it's like, all right, I'm going to talk about it and vent it out because it does upset me and that makes me feel a little better. And then I'm dropping it and we're done now. We're done talking about it. Time to move forward. So that's how I treated it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Well, what about that was different from how you usually handle it? Like the interaction itself, not the later of it.
The interaction would have been, I realized the longer I talk, like the longer the response, the more she wants to engage. So like if I were to try to explain, like, right now I can't get my hair done because of COVID and money and all that. Right now, like, these are just the clothes that I happen to be wearing. Like, any sort of explanation, I've come to realize, and I think I learned this through street stand-up and dealing with crazy people on the street, is
You learned how to do it. That's interesting.
Wait, what?
What I've learned from doing street standing up and dealing with crazy people is how to talk to my mother.
Yeah, she's like a vagrant with a house. Yeah, and so what I learned with crazy people on the street was they're crazy. You have to, like, as soon as
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But like, as soon as, I think because I've grown up with my mom, I've grown up with the insanity of my mom. I had to engage my whole life.
my mom just popped in.
Hey, congratulations on being a healthy parent.
Yeah, Aaron's talking about the traumas that are dealing with his mother.
Would your mom ever do that to you?
Oh no, well, she wouldn't do it like that. Hers is more like she waved. So to give you some context, I don't know if she might have just popped out. If she's still here, I'll explain it anyway. What he just explained is he went over to go get a waffle iron from his mom's house, and on site, his mom just started like going in on his hair and his outfit, and like
Not in a funny way.
Yeah, in a very harsh, not like, oh, it'd be better if you got it like what's wrong with you? Disgusting. How, like, this, it's honestly repugnant that you're in my house and looking like this, or that you exist like this at all.
Yeah.
And my mom has, first and foremost, done her very best to try to make me a hygienic, well-functioning human being. Yeah, she said I'm over it. Yeah, and like that's essentially where I've gotten her to, where she's really done everything in her power to try to raise me to be a good, hygienic human being, and yet I am me, and I like you. I just don't care too much. Now, to be fair, you and this is where we differ. I think in the regular world, when COVID isn't happening, you actually would get your hair and you would like work a little bit. You wouldn't like.
Well, I like the way I look. I like my style and my I like my hair. And I really am frustrated that I can't like, yeah, I want to get my hair done because I love my hair and I like my style. I've grown to enjoy who I am and my look and everything. But and over time, it's like, it's easy for me to understand now, like, oh, this is why I had low fucking self, because you can't win. It didn't, like, that was my entire life was dealing with that.
Yeah, see, I'm on the other end where I completely understand her point, and her and everyone in my life is 100% right, because mine is like unhygienic. Mine isn't like, I like my style. Mine is just, I'm lazy and I don't get around to it. And so it comes out looking like this. Now, at the same time, much like we're on different sides of the spectrum, but we end up being the same, it is also that like high self-esteem. I like the way I look and I think I'm amazing regardless. But like, obviously the world doesn't connect to that energy. But the way my mom would come at me is more like, you should do that. Why aren't you doing that? It's less like
Vitriolic.
Yeah, it's just like you're a bad person. It's just like, I raised you better than this. Like, come on, have some home training. It's like the equivalent of like, yours is like if you came inside of your house and just started punching somebody and it's like, whoa, what is wrong with you? Mine's is like if I came into the house and then I just farted and didn't say excuse me. It's like, come on, man. Like, that's not cool. Just like, I made you better than this and there's no reason you should be this. That's kind of my mom's thing. But like she said, she's over it, so she doesn't really.
But the street stand-up thing helped me realize, like having to engage with so many different crazy people, and understanding that my mom is just like a crazy person. Like she is. Do you not want to represent? Wait,
your mother better?
No, no, I don't.
Yeah, he does not have a good relationship with his mom. His mom. And honestly, to do that for her would kind of be a disservice towards, from the stories. If you watch any of the other podcasts, even the first episode, he goes on a pretty good tangent on like him and his mom, and it's not good. It's not like, oh, that was for Chris. Oh, that was for me.
Oh,
I thought you said you were over it. And that's pretty much how she comes at me. It's like an extension of her, an extension of the family. And it comes from the family tree and everybody feels that way. But like, you've seen me every time. Do you think about my mom when you're like talking to me? It's like I think it's a generational thing. Now, to be fair, you ask my cousin, who is very up on her hygiene and is a very good, upstanding human being, and she'd be like, no, we all are on the same page. You're the weirdo. But, you know, it is what it is.
But so, okay, performing on the street, dealing with crazy people,
right.
Coming to the understanding that my mom is, like, there's something wrong with her. There's no way you behave, like, no reasonable person behaves that way when their son, I love him regardless, but would like better. Well, look at, my mom has literally never, my mom's literally never said, I love you out loud. So,
that's the difference. Well, one of many
differences.
I can't emphasize enough that I am on her side, but I'm also me. Okay, crazy people, street, go ahead.
So in dealing with crazy people on the street, you come to this realization that like when you're trying to perform for somebody who is just not all there, they're not even taking in the information you're saying. They're not in the same world as you. And because as a kid, it's like you're stuck in a house with a homeless person who just is not homeless. You're stuck in a house with them. So your only representation of people is this, and this is how you have to engage with people all the time. And so in realizing like this is an unstable, crazy human being, don't take anything she says seriously, just treat her like a crazy person on the street. Treat her like one of those masked people on the street who doesn't want to wear a mask. Treat her like a Karen. Like, just ignore that, because there is something like mentally wrong there, and it just can't be fixed. And
more and more as I grow up, the more I think it's a part of maturing or whatever. Because when you're a little kid, you do believe you can save the world, or you can help everybody, or you can do the things and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But like, more and more as I get older, the more I realize that old saying of you can't help those who don't want to be helped. Like, don't save her, she don't want to be saved. It's kind of that thing of like, what you would have to, time-wise, energy-wise, like what you would have to put in to even begin to pull them out of that state would at the end of the day end up more detrimental for you. And 9 times out of the 10 wouldn't even help them. Like, there's some people that you could even force them to get quote unquote better, and they'll just resent you for making them better. They'll just hold it over you. So it's like what you said. It's like there's no point interacting with it. It's interesting. There's a side story to this that me and my friend, she comes from a totally different background. Girl I used to date, now one of my best friends. We were driving and we stopped at this stoplight, and this was such a our life experiences clashed, because there was a homeless person outside of the car. And she looked at the homeless person and like, I was like, what are you doing? And she's like, what? And then the homeless person saw her looking at him and started coming over. He's like, what is he doing? I'm like, you made eye contact. You know, you never make eye contact. You don't look at him. That's like a calling card. And it was so like, she's never dealt with that at all. So she doesn't know that that's the protocol. But for me, it's like, oh yeah, no, you don't engage. Yeah. It's as horrible and monstrous as it sounds. It's like, you don't acknowledge it, because if you acknowledge it, now they're like, oh, you see me. Like, most people don't see me. And now that you see me, time to have an interaction. And it's like, it's that thing. But go ahead.
The second thing that I learned, so I met up with William Holland and Joel Powers. I made a whole ACMM about it, so it'll be out after this, but spoilers to it.
For those who don't know, those are 2 other stand-up comedians.
Yeah. And I was arguing with Holland, because that's what we do when we hang out. And I was saying it in my podcast, but in short, I like arguing with him because I know he's a brick wall. I know that it doesn't matter what I say, he's not really gonna change his mind, and that's fine. Like, my ultimate goal is not to change his mind, it's to continue to bounce off of the wall and see what angles I'm taking to figure out my own process, my own thought process on things. And in talking with him, I had a better understanding of the need for a father figure, role model, or guidance as a kid. So I was saying that when it comes to being happy, figuring yourself out, all this stuff, I was saying, like, I needed guidance. I needed an adult male figure to help me, to guide me through some stuff. His thing is, no, you don't. It's all in your head. You just have to do it on your own. And I disagree, and I will continue to disagree. Literally, this interaction to me is proof of why I believe I'm right about that we have very similar personalities. We put into different upbringings changes who you are, or affects.
Well, see, I meet you about halfway. I wouldn't say, obviously, again, and I don't think that's what you're saying. I'm just clarifying for those who are listening and don't understand. I know what you're saying isn't men can't be men if they're not raised with men, or like have an adult male figure. Like, obviously we can still grow up and we'll be fine, but like, obviously best case scenario, have some figure in your life. Now, at the same time that you say like our differences, I grew up in a family of all women, and even though I had my grandpa, and my dad exists and he shows up every once and again, I was mostly raised by the matriarchy, and I love my family, I really do.
But I have a thing to add to this when you're done. Actually, before you even say it, just because I feel like we're going to say it, I say masculine just because of my own unique situation, But
Right.
any reasonable adult, like it doesn't matter the gender, but for me personally, I focus on the dad thing. But like any reasonable adult,
Yeah.
yeah.
And I would even I'll take a little bit of the like thing of it. Like I agree with you. I think it is important because there's the difference between me and you, and then there's the difference between like me and this other friend I have named Chevin, or even my friend Dro. Like dudes who have, and it's the same with girls who have both parents. There's just a different vibe. And that's not to say that like you can't be like, obviously your mom did some damage or having both parents doesn't do damage. It's not to say those people are better than us in any way, but having that does help you with the whole bouncing ideas and energy and certain feelings that you're having that like as a girl, excuse me, as a woman, you can't fully relate to me as a man, and as a man I can't fully relate to you as a woman. I can do my best, I can try my darndest, and when I have a daughter, because it's kind of in my genetic code to have a daughter and I don't have a choice in that matter, which also you can make an argument where like who from, we'll get to that, neither nor that. But like I'm gonna do my darndest regardless of lady in my life or not lady in my life to raise a well-adjusted human being. And I think a lot of great people come from single family households or whatever. But at the same time, I would be remiss. And my mom has talked to me about this back when I was growing up, that like she wishes there was somebody who was like a male figure in my life that I had as I grew up. Personally, again, it's that I like who I am thing. So it's like I'm chill on, like, because I am who I am now. And much like going back in time and changing anything, I don't know how much I would like I had somebody that I was like, Mr. Williams, like, oh man, he was like the guy I looked up to, just so then I could, because that's the thing is like you grow up and like, I don't want to be this guy, but you grow up and you realize that like they're human too. And like when my personal, and again, this is where we start to get into some meta levels here. In my personal experience, I don't see many dudes that I like A, wanna be, or B, don't kinda suck. Like it's just like every time I see a dude who's like an adult male that I like look up to, there's always like, even if his life is great and it's bueno, he's always like kinda sucky to some girl. He's always like dating some girl and then just does horrible bad things. And I'm like, can we just like, can we not with that part? Like, it's like every single time, if not that, some other messed up thing, because we're human. But just having that when it comes to men always like throws me off the game. And so I'm like, I like this one. I like this reality where I'm kind of just, I'm existing. Like, I don't want to. Go ahead. Sorry.
I'm excited to add this element to it because I have a feeling you're going to take his side on it, which I think is going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get into it with him. I didn't talk to him all that much about it, but I think there's a racial element that he is missing as well.
Okay.
In that I don't know his upbringing. He doesn't talk, he's not like me of like, hey, here's all the damage. Like, he doesn't do all that. So I don't know his upbringing.
Completely side tangent. Do you find that interesting? This is me personally, I always find it interesting, the people who decide to, and they're perfectly fine to do that. I just always find them very fascinating, the people who decide to like safeguard that. That's like, I don't let people in on that part of my life. I don't like, you can't know where I come from because that's like me. And it's like, I don't want you to know how my family raised me. I'm like, what do you, like, a part of me, there's a part of me, it's a part of me that's like, what are you hiding? Yeah. And then there's another part of me that's just curious, like, well, it's kind of like the club that has the bouncer that's like, nah, we don't let just anybody in here. It's like, oh, it must be cool. And then you get in the club. It's like, this is like every other club. Like, why did you make me go through all that? And so, like, those people, they always get me. Like, I'm a sucker for an introvert because, like, they have that energy where it's like, no, I don't like with everybody. And then you find out it's like, oh, you're a weirdo. Okay, cool. You're a weirdo. Like, but go ahead. Sorry.
So so I'll use this example, and I do it in the ACMM as well. We were talking about that feeling of, you know, when you get depressed or you feel in your head like, fuck, I suck, I'm not a good comic, I'm not going to become success. You know, when those thoughts get in your head?
Sure.
So he says, for him, he says, you just decide, you say to yourself, no, that's not true. I'm going to be a comic, the end. And then you switch off and then you keep going. And
yeah, that is pretty much how my brain works.
Right. So perfect. Okay, I'm excited. Okay.
Okay.
For me, it's not that easy. It's not that simple. It's when those thoughts creep in, I have to take time and think, and I have to allow myself to feel how I feel. Because what I tried to do what you and what Holland does. I tried to do that because everyone would tell me like, oh, just be happy. Oh, just fucking be positive. And so when you're not actually happy and you don't understand that and no one's guided you in that, no one's explained anything to you, you're just like, I guess I'm happy right now. And what you're doing is you're pushing shit down.
Yeah.
And so I think that a big part of that is upbringing. I think that he doesn't, and I think that you'll find this interesting because racially speaking.
Uh-oh. I think his phone, it froze or it died. Hopefully he'll be back. For context, by the way, if it's not obvious by his name, the Will that he's speaking of is a white comic. So that's why he's saying racially. I'm betting any amount of money that his phone overheated and then he'll be back like after he fixes that. But I am interested something along the lines of yep, he's gone. Yeah. I think he was saying something along the lines of like how being raised in an environment where you're allowed to be yourself, unlike him, where you're allowed that freedom, you naturally fall into being happy when you're happy, or you naturally fall into more positive attitudes. You have more time spent on figuring out your emotions and all that stuff. Whereas for him, it's like he was mostly just surviving. Like all of his emotions kind of went on the back burner to he can speak for himself because he's coming back now. And he's back.
What did I miss? You were talking to somebody?
No, I was just explaining what I thought you were going to say, which is, I think, something about, like, you were saying, racially speaking, our backgrounds and all that stuff.
Right. So I think that, like, I think we're a big part of what he doesn't get racial. I think you get it, but not on, like, a personal level, but you get it.
Yeah.
I think that racially speaking, when I say that he doesn't understand, I mean, like, when I talk with him, we sound heated and angry, but at the end of it, it's like, it's fine, whatever.
Right.
I think that he just genuinely doesn't understand what it's like when people are fucking with your head, like fucking with your perception of reality. Right. So it's, and doing that since a kid. And so for him, it seems like his logic is, well, you're not in that place anymore, so now you just decide not to be happy. It's like, I'm not a fucking robot. Like, I'm a person, and things have happened that I need to deal with now.
Yeah. Yeah, it is a very interesting, different, like, there's a classic saying that is essentially like a very, what's the word, brief way of saying it, a brevity way of saying what you're all saying and what he's saying, is that idea that happiness is a choice, which on some level it is, but then there's also the factors that lead you to that point. If you don't know what happy is, then you can't make the choice. If you have only, like you have said, you think you're happy, but you're actually just pushing stuff down. If that's what you trained yourself to do your whole life, then you're not really being happy. You're being this other thing. And I'm learning more and more that, like, yeah, for people like us, and I can't speak for him, maybe his whole thing is different, but if we're the same, the way I think you're saying we're the same, and it sounds like we are, is that for people like us who have experienced what we've experienced and had a generally positive, like generally okay way of living, where you don't really get pushed too much. Like, I haven't had too much, like, like fight energy. Like I haven't had to like fight for myself too
Yeah.
often. So like I was free to be me. I was free to deal with my stuff. I was free to be happy. And like people underestimate the value of like everything is a learned behavior. Everything is training yourself. Like this is why, and I told you the joke that I'm working on about it, the dictator thing. This is why I get into that thought, is because we're left, like people will say like, don't tell me how to raise my kid. But it's like, you don't know how to raise your kid. Very few people know how to raise a kid. And like the very few people that do also still kind of mess up. And it's like, because you're dealing with humans and they're also special and different. But like we're also, most of us are just kind of left to our own devices. Like you're just thrown into the universe. Everybody assumes you're okay until you show them you're not okay. But by the point that it starts to come out in the physical world where everybody can see it, it's like way too late. Like by the time that you're expressing it clearly that you're depressed, you've been pushing down stuff from decades ago. Yeah. And then everybody's job, or professional's job even, or medication jobs, whoever you want to dictate it to, or honestly, the self's job, honestly, the very, very first person itself. Your job is to untangle the decades of tangled wires and emotions that you've been just kind of dealing with until like everybody had a problem with it. Or until you have a problem with it. Until again, it's like where it's like it's not too late, but it's definitely past the point of like where you should have fixed it.
And my thing, so it's interesting because of quarantine, in that isolation, focusing on me, yada yada, cute shit, and then having to interact with him again it felt different, and that gets me excited for whenever we go back to new normal. Because in the past, there would have been this feeling of frustration at the end of, like, same with my mom. There would have been this feeling of like, fuck, dude, you don't get it. You do not get it. Like, you couldn't fucking fathom what I clearly have been going through. So you don't understand, like, it would have just kept going and I would have been frustrated. Now I'm in a place where I still believe he doesn't get it, and there still is frustration that comes with that because I know he's probably saying the same things to somebody else who is in the similar situation of me, who's like, no, I needed help. I need some fucking help. Like, you need to help me. Right. And so there's frustration in that, but on a personal level, it is very like, oh, he just doesn't get it.
You seem during quarantine, it sounds like you seem to have crossed a little bit. I'm not saying like obviously you haven't reached enlightenment, but you've come to a little bit more peace with like, there's some people I'm not gonna be able to reach. Like that's kind of their journey. You're like, and it's gonna, again, I know we're both Christian, but like for the audience, it's like I'm gonna be religious here for a second. It's kind of that thing with the whole Jesus thing, where it's like, I do believe like you can, there's several ways you can go about preaching or whatever, and this goes for more than religion or just teaching people things, right? And one is the overbearing, I'm telling you what's right, I'm going to get you, I'm going to force it on you. Nobody likes that. Two is like, come on, like, come on. Like, it's not forcing you, but it's still like I mean, you could, like, if you want to, come on. And then the third one is, I'm just going to leave this here. Like, I'm just putting it out there as a thought. You could take it or leave it. Like, here's my thing. That's it. And then you let them do their thing. And more time, do you believe Michael Jordan is Black Jesus?
Yeah, I think the Jesus is black, but yeah.
But yeah. Jesus has a gambling problem. Anywho, but like, you put that on the table and you just kind of like let people do what they're going to do with it. And it sounds like what you're coming to is like, yeah, that point of like, it's fine.
Because like, Last Dance sets up.
He was referring to the comments, the guy it's talking about, like Jesus and Michael Jordan.
And you know, the thing I'm realizing is the reason why, so in the pre-COVID, in talking with Holland, the reason why I would keep fucking harping on it is because I had to grow up with my mom where there was no escape. It was like, I can't just leave. Like I now have to deal with your insanity and
Right.
your inability to change. I have to deal with it, and I'm a kid with no money and nowhere to go.
Right.
So there's this trained behavior of, no, you have to keep fucking going because
Right.
this is the world I've lived in. But now that that's finally subsided, I'm now in a position where I can say, you know, when she comes at my hair or my everything, I can be like, okay, go have fun watching Fox News then, or not Fox News, CNN, and getting upset. Leave me alone. And when it comes to Holland, it's like going that back and forth, I think is interesting. And I think I'm glad that he and you are able to do that. Good for you.
Right.
But for me, it's like, well, I'm happy. I'm happy doing my thing. And I'm not going to take this advice because it is not coming from, I don't want to say it's not for my own self-interest or not I don't want to say that he is, what's the word? Like, do you know what I'm getting at?
Yeah, he's not doing it from a negative, but he's not like trying to put you in your place or trying to pull you down, or he's trying to help. It's with good intent.
He thinks he's helping, right?
He's trying to tell you because he feels, he sees your pain, and he's like, listen, all you got to do is do what I've been doing. But
you gotta do in the Holland voice. You have to do what I've been doing because you're brave. Like, yeah.
I don't know him or hang out with him enough to do an accurate impression, but I'm sure that's very on the nose.
That's it. But
I've decided that was a good impression.
That's his voice. But it's fascinating. It's just fascinating talking to him because I know he has the thing that we have. He's just been put in a particular situation that has made him, that's kind of molded him in a particular way. Yeah. And I think that he
not to diverge, but keep that thought. I just want to, on the molding thing. Have you ever had the thought or gone down the rabbit hole of like how much of you, the nature nurture argument is like, how much of you do you think is you, and how much do you think is your environment? Because I'm at this point in my life, I think people are like 95% their environment. I don't think the things that you are you. I think there's a very, very tiny amount that is you, but it's not at all who you think.
I think for people like us, or for people like, I'm not, oh boy. I don't know if did you, get ready. Did you listen to my ACMM on The Last Dance?
I started to, but the other stuff came up.
Okay. I essentially compare myself to Michael Jordan. Now, before...
Once again, we have another person that Aaron's comparing himself to. How convenient. You just keep accidentally comparing yourselves to greats. That's crazy.
Just do it, is what he said. Just say it. Anyway. Okay. But the comparison isn't the achieving of greatness or whatever. It's that there's something there. There's something wrong there.
Okay.
And I know that I have something wrong there. But in talking with other people, the more I'm like, all right, let me just put my ego away. Let me listen. Let me hear how other people are handling things. The more that happens, the more I'm like, oh, okay. Nature for me was about 65 to 70%. And then the nurture was that. Like nature, whatever the fuck is wrong with me as soon as I was born, because ever since I was a little kid, like I always knew, like stand up. This is what I need to do. And it was the nurture that fucked all of that up. But I don't think that's most people. I think I think you're right. But when it comes to someone like me or like Holland or like you, I think it's nature. I think a lot of that is nature. I think we are naturally just going to be like this and there's no other choice.
But I want to be normal.
Yeah, well, that's how I felt. Not anymore. I give up.
Yeah, I don't know. Then that's where we, once again, like our situations obviously made us who we are. Because I never really had that desire. Like whenever I like realized I was weird and different, I was like, dope. You know that old Chris Rock bit? Was it Chris Rock or Cat Williams? One of them had a bit that was about like how women look at themselves and how men look at themselves. And that's like me with my self-esteem. So it's essentially like a girl will go in the mirror and be like, I don't like my hair. I don't like the way my nose or my eyes look. And I don't like the way my boobs are, my shoulders. And it'll eat at them and like they'll think about it and it'll really ruin their day. Whereas like a dude will look in the mirror and see like his nose is huge and be like, I got a big nose. Yeah, I got a big nose. And then like you're just like, yeah, that's my thing. But like for me, that's how my self-esteem and ego and like all my self-worth is just, and it's like an echo chamber where no matter what you tell me, and again, I completely think this is nurture. No matter what you tell me, it's going to go into my head and then flip into like a positive thing. Like you could tell me I look like this or that, but I'm just going to be like, yeah, and that's dope. Like, yeah, that's dope.
That's nurture. 100% that's nurture. The thing I don't want to forget about Holland.
Yeah,
okay.
Sorry, go ahead.
So from what I've seen, when we were talking, we were talking about how in the IE comedy scene, it's like people are very, they have thin skin. They can't handle the ribbing and the whatever. And
that's interesting to me.
What do you mean?
Excuse me. Just because I don't, as much, again, I was in the scene, you know, I like came in, I did my time, I talked for a little bit and then I left. I wasn't like involved with everybody, so I don't know everybody. Much in the same way when we started this podcast, I didn't really know you. I knew of you. I talked to you sometimes, but I didn't really know you. It's interesting to hear from those of you that actually hang out with other comedians.
I don't know if they fixed the gate. I haven't done it yet. Are you going to check? Okay.
To hang out with other comedians as people that you guys, like, you get to see that. Like, to me, and again, this is a wrong assumption, but to me, I feel like if you're in the game of stand-up comedy, then you gotta innately, like, you have to develop tough skin or you have tough skin. And so it's good to hear you say, like, oh, they're very thin-skinned. I'm like, how can you be? Like, I don't think you have a choice.
That's the way I feel. So Holland's perspective on it seems to be, he said, I was always it was always being funny and telling jokes and going after people. Like, that's his upbringing, right? And I don't believe he's been put in a situation where, as a child, people would not allow him to do that. Do you know what I mean? So like, how do I put this? As a black kid in a white neighborhood, I was not able to express parts of myself. The gate's fixed?
He had to move the screws and everything.
Okay, so it works now? Okay, I'll start using that for the trash can.
Yeah.
Okay, so
and that was a cameo from Aaron's grandma.
So I'll reword it. I was put in a position where I had to take in everyone else's perspectives. I had to. Right. I was just forced to. And I don't believe, and again, I don't know his upbringing, I don't believe he was forced to do that, right? Right. But we both, he kept saying this thing. It was interesting. He kept saying, I don't understand how you could get into comedy and not have thick skin. I don't understand how you could do that. And he did genuinely seem to not understand. Like, he couldn't wrap his mind around it. And you've heard me say the same type of stuff in this podcast of like, I don't understand how people aren't doing this, this, and this. Yeah. And what I think it is we both have that thing that's wrong with us. The difference is my environment forced me to have to take in everyone else's perspectives and not my own. Whereas he was in the environment where he was able to focus purely on his perspective. And that's the divergent. And so I still have that natural, like, what the fuck is going on here? But I've been taking in information. I've been taking in other people's emotions. So there's an empathy there that he doesn't seem to have in the same way.
Interesting. Because as you describe that, I find myself in between the two of you, where a part of me, like, I think what I just said, where it's like, yeah, you're in the game of it's gonna make you have tough skin, but like you said, I'm not like I don't understand it. Like, it's like I understand it because you don't join the stand-up comedy to get like destroyed. You're not like, you know what I want to do? I want somebody to come and roast me or just like I try to make a joke and nobody laughs, just a masochist. That's why I want to do it. Like you did it for the fun, for the nice. Like you want to make people laugh, you want to feel good about making people laugh. Like you did it because you signed up because you were like, I think I'm funny or somebody will, and you go up there and you say your thing and you're hoping for the laughter. That is what's in your head. It's kind of like, why do you like? That's like, to me, that same logic is like, why would you even go talk to a girl if you don't understand that they might reject you? It's like, because you're hoping that they won't.
Right. Yeah, sure. So, I was trying to explain to him that, like, when I first got into comedy or whatever, I didn't understand. I really didn't understand how cutthroat it was. So for him, it was like, I don't understand how, why are you getting sensitive? Why are you getting upset by this? And it's like, for me, I totally understand. Don't get me wrong. They're going to have to get over it. We all seem to agree, like, at the end of the day, you're going to have to get over it.
Yeah.
But I understand. I understand if you pout. I understand if you storm out and you need to take a second and come back.
Yeah. It's that thing that you said earlier, and some of my friends are like this too, where it's this like, there's certain kinds of people who like disregard human emotion, like the natural, like because it's not logical, because it doesn't add up or make sense. Like the concept of like getting mad or being sad doesn't do anything beneficial for you in the time that you're feeling that way. So it's that type of person that would go, why are you mad? Why are you sad? Yeah. And it's like, well, because I'm a person and emotions happen. And honestly, those things do have their place. Anger sometimes gives you the fuel to fight back. Sometimes sadness releases the chemical in your brain that helps you feel better about your situation. You got to get that stuff out. You got to feel that stuff. Those things are there for a reason. And so like, it is that, like, I understand. It's like the logic brain, you're 100%. Yes. Why would you, like, of course that's a part of it. You big devil. Like, yeah. But then there's another part of you that's like, I mean, they're a person. They're allowed to feel bad when they don't do well. Like that's like you said earlier, it's like a robot thing where it's like, you're really disregarding like that emotion. You can't tell me you've never cried. You've never been angry. You're in having an argument at all. You have to be a little bit worked up because you're trying to prove a point. You're clearly frustrated. Why isn't your same energy towards like not getting mad in this argument or any of the other? Sorry, go ahead.
But to loop it back to something positive, because I'm still in that place.
That's good.
And that is, it just felt like it was like a test for me. It was like a little future test of what's going to happen whenever we're all able to be back in the same room. Mm. And I didn't feel angry when I left. I wasn't frustrated. During the conversation, I speak aggressively, and so does he. So it just comes, I'm sure to other people it comes off very angry, but I was fine, and I'm still fine. And that feels good. That makes me feel like, oh, progress has happened. And whenever we can go back to some sort of normal, like, I think I'm going to be in a better place, that I can just say, like, you know what? Holland doesn't get it. And I hope he does get it one day. But if he doesn't get it, he doesn't get it. And that's okay.
Right. And there's always the part of you that's like, maybe we're wrong. It doesn't matter. It's like, it's fine. I'm willing to grow. Everybody's willing to grow. It's whatever. And you just keep it moving. But yeah, that is good. It is good to see that, like, the progress you made wasn't like a temporary solution that was happening during this specific.
I have another positive thing.
Okay, I'm glad you found it. You're on a roll today.
I'm on a roll. Ooh! I was, and I say this in the podcast too, but I was talking to Joel about everybody hating me, all the usual shit.
Yeah, just everybody. You know,
everyone despises me, whatever. Everyone wants me to hang myself, but it doesn't matter. But I was talking to him about that, and he was like, oh, you should lean into it. Lean into the hate. And he meant that in like it doesn't matter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, or maybe he didn't mean in like I should be heel like in
Be
WWE.
a completely evil, just an evil villain.
Yeah, I interpreted the way he said that as it doesn't matter. That's how I interpret it. But who knows? Maybe he didn't mean like lean into it like it's WWE evil Hulk Hogan, where he wore all black instead of red, white, and blue. And my response to that, and this was my actual feelings, was, well, man, I don't want to lean into anything. I'm just trying to be me. I'm just doing me. Like, I'm not trying to lean into anything. I'm just being me. And if that upsets people, I don't know what else to do.
Right.
So that was another positive moment. And because I was talking to somebody different, that's the thing is like we're talking to the same people over and over again. I was talking to somebody different, so I had to word my thoughts in a different way. And in doing so, I realized like, oh shit, I've come to a place of, or at least a pretty zen place at the moment of like, all right, it is what it is.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's very interesting, the up and down roller coaster that is being a person. I know it's like very getting kind of airy fairy here, but
Yeah.
like, and again, even more so with the next statement I'm about to say, because it sounds like I got so. This next sentence is going to sound like I got so California'd. Like this is like I just got infected. But legitimately, as cliche as it is, cliches exist for a reason, and I think the cliches exist because they're like partially true. Partially, everybody's on their journey, man. Everybody's just doing their best. Everybody's just trying to exist and learn and grow. And some of us do it, quote unquote, better than others. Some of us grow a lot. Some of us change a lot for positive or negative. But like the best you can do as a person is like bad things are gonna happen to you, right? We're all alive in the era of COVID. Therefore, bad things have happened to you. And they will continue to happen because that's just living in general. I can't remember what I saw recently that had the same feeling, that it was like, that is the human condition, is to have some bad things happen. But in the same way those bad things happen, good things happen too. This is the most generic thing ever. But like you get what I'm saying, is just like, it's good to work on the things that make the short time that we have in this world, like, at the very least bearable, but like hopefully good. Hopefully, like, you look back on your life, and even though you've been through what you've been through, on some weird tip, you're like, that's good. Like, even I think truly the sign of a person who's like in a like good place is when they look at their bad place and they go, that too has good in it. Like, it's not that it needed to happen. It's not that it should have happened, but it had its place and its time to do its thing. Now, logically, obviously, there's a lot of horrible, like, gray area flaws in that way of thinking. If you want to be a freaking Debbie Downer about it, yeah, no, bad things don't have to happen to the people, but we've also seen what happens to people when nothing bad happens to them, and they're not the best people because humans take things for granted. But go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
That idea of the past and the bad things, the thing that I think gets on my nerves is when I'm bitching about the past. Mm-hmm. Just let me bitch about it sucked. It was not fun. And right. I acknowledge I acknowledge all the things I've been taught. I acknowledge everything I've learned. I've acknowledged that through those things, I've come out the other side a stronger human being, and I'm proud of myself and all the cute shit, whatever. But it did not take away from the fact that it sucked, and it did not take away from the fact that it still affects me, and it doesn't take away from the fact that could have been better. There could have been certain things didn't necessarily need to happen.
Oh yeah. No, there's definitely I'll let you finish.
I appreciate when someone acknowledges the suffering in I can't stand it when people are like, well, it's not happening anymore, so get over it. It's like, can you just acknowledge that this is it's like the Black Lives Matter thing. It's like, can you please acknowledge that the police are doing fucked up stuff or racism exists or whatever?
Right. It's very interesting, and we got 10 minutes, so I'll try not to open this can of worms too much. But it's a very fascinating thing that the thing that you're talking about is something that I personally have struggled with. Not as far as like not as like me expressing it and people coming at me, but me being the person who has things expressed to them and not doing the like solution thing, not doing the like, oh, well, think about it like this, or like, hey, that's fine, that was then, and this is now, like exactly what you're saying. Because, earlier how I was saying, like, by the time it comes to the surface, it's too late. I think because, and again, I want to preface this with, like, I'm getting better at it. And, like, I do agree that there is a time and a place to allow people to just say what they need to say. I'm learning more and more that, like, it's important sometimes to just listen, not to offer solutions or any sort of like, here's what I think you should do. Just like literally hear them out and go, okay, that does. Like as weird as it sounds, sometimes that sucks is what you want to hear, and I'm learning that as somebody on my end. But it is fascinating because the reason I think there's such a knee-jerk reaction to it, and I can speak for myself, but I feel like I can make it a little broad here. I think the reason most people have those like nitpick, like get over it, that like trying to find the solution, the different things, is because like it's the Facebook of it. Now, I know this is going to sound like a weird stretch, and I know that felt like way left field because I didn't connect the dot, but I'm about to. You know how Facebook exists, and in general, people kind of put up the generally happy stuff or like political points. Like they'll put up their like not, they won't put up like, and until it's really bad, they won't put up personal, like my story, unless that story ends in, and now I'm better. And now I've fixed it. Or I'm taking strides to do it. At most, you'll see like I'm taking a break from social media, and that's the most like in the present of their suffering that they'll post. But like even that, by the time it gets there, that's a level of it's gotten really bad. Yeah. So once you see it on the Facebook wall, it's really bad. Because that means that part of their brain, the lizard brain that we all have that understands, everybody understands the social rules. We all know what we do and don't do on social media. Like, even though we can complain about it and be like, nobody's real and blah, 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 but I'm not going to post like, everybody does that. But it's because we understand the also unwritten social construct of, I don't want to be bummed out about your day. Like I don't want to see a wall. Much in the same way that people go, "Hey, how are you doing?" and you're supposed to say good because it's just like nice and courteous regardless of what you're dealing with. Unless they're your close personal friend, you don't do that to a stranger. You don't put your life problems on somebody. And we all understand that. So for you to put it out on Front Street and say, "Hey everybody, this is my problem," at that point, it's gotten pretty bad. So when open people like you or me express those things openly and easily to the regular person who confines by the normal social construct and does the, "Hey, how you doing? I'm fine." When you express it, they're like, "Oh, it must be really bad." You're expressing it because you want solutions. Otherwise, you'd keep that to yourself. You wouldn't just offer that without, like, wanting something from me. And they don't understand that, like you said, it's like sometimes the thing that I want from you is just like yeah, that was sucky. And it does feel, again, I'll speak to my side of it. It feels like it's not. And again, I'm learning this, but it feels like a disservice. It feels like it doesn't help you to go, yeah. But like it does. It does in the way that, like you said, is like, your biggest fear of like the reality not being your reality. It's just like somebody proving that you're not crazy. Like, hey, I saw an alien today. You going, yeah, you saw an alien. Makes me go, okay, cool. I'm not just seeing stuff. I don't need to be locked up. That's a good thing.
And I think, right.
Oh, no, okay. I'm doing that thing where I'm rambling into my own. I could do that forever. Go ahead.
I think that's a big part of why I'm so, like, when your mom was like, when I thought that your mom was talking about my mom, of like represent her in such and such way. I think the reason why I've become so open about this, like I was even experiencing it on the street. I'm having people be like, wow, you're really transparent about all of this, huh? And it's like, because nobody would listen. I'm just looking for people to be like, yes, that's crazy. Because my entire life I was like, this is crazy. And people were like, no, it's not crazy. And you lose your mind. So you get to this place where you're like, please, because I have to interact in the world with people. As much as isolated as I can try to make things, at the end of the day, there's human beings in the world and I have to interact. Right. And so in interacting, when you feel like there's insanity around you and you're trying to articulate it, you just want people around you to acknowledge, like, that's not crazy. And that's all at the end of the day, I think that's what I'm looking for. So, yeah.
Right. And it's understandable, and especially in the world we live in. And I don't like talking like that because, like, honestly, the world's been the same. It's just we've adjusted to be kind of like this much different. But there was always a means to communicate. There was always a means of sharing your life, and there was always a means of making it better than it actually is, looking to other people. To quickly sum it up, because we got 3 minutes, it's very fascinating that I'm talking about the social construct. The social contract unwritten, that we all kind of don't do that to each other. The, like, putting our life stories on each other. At the same time, there is that again, nothing's perfect, and I don't know what world I really want, because sometimes I'm like, I do wish everybody was open and honest, and when I say, how are you, they would say their stuff. Other times I'm like, I don't have time. We're not close enough. We can't function like that. Like, it doesn't operate well, because honestly, a lot of people are sad. Is another idea. Again, we don't have enough time to get into these things, but one of the things that came into my head today was, like, the number of people that are, like, on the spectrum or are dealing with depression. At what number would it have to hit before we stop calling it a mental problem and we start considering it just a part of being a human being? You know what I mean? Like, how many people would have to go through that thing before we all realize, oh, the thing we've been assuming is normal is weird, and the thing that's weird is normal?
I think what would need to happen is more people would have to admit it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a hard thing to come to, the idea that, especially in the world where it is deemed as quote unquote crazy, to come forward and be like, I'm one of them. Like, that's me. And
I'm confident. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, okay, so that was this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in. Those of you who did or didn't, you can catch other episodes of the podcast on the Buddy System Comedy on YouTube. You can follow Aaron at Aaron Chase _91.
There's no underscore.
No underscore. That's me. Me is at @0_KR Anime. Aaron is at Aaron Chase 91. Both on Instagram. You can also follow us on different YouTube channels and all the stuff. Watch the ACMM podcast, which is the podcast that Aaron does, or watch my stand-up stuff on YouTube. Thank you guys for tuning in. See you guys when we see you guys, hopefully next week. Later.